kids, howdy, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology, and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. We are rounding out February and sailing into March this week. So we're starting off on the 23rd of February. We're floating away in Pisces, but electrified by the eclipse. Like both energies are present, sort of a floaty, I can't quite tell what's happening, but we're being driven in this lunar cycle by an eclipse that started in the sign of Aquarius. Even though the moon moved into Pisces the moment it was done and the sun moved into Pisces, like the next day, the whole lunar cycle has that electricity of new moon in Aquarius squaring Uranus, and that influence is imprinted on the whole lunar cycle. Just one announcement about radical forgiveness, my class that takes you through a 4-week process to find whatever forgiveness is possible at this time. This was the first class I did back in pandemic land because the world was so freaking angry. My thought was, I know what's missing. And I feel like we're in such a similar place right now where the polarization is getting so ferocious.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I feel like we were angry. Maybe we chilled out a bit and we are at a 10.
Yeah, we are at a 10 for sure. And, you know, one of the things that I've been saying in like my marketing, materials for this class is that even a little resentment that you're holding on to because you can't quite let it go, is harmful for your health, but it also connects current anger to old anger in a way that you can't be consciously aware of. So when we go back to old unforgivenesses and, dislodge them a little bit, we have more grace in the present moment, even amidst, all of the things we are chaotically having to deal with, because our unconscious isn't, holding a foundation of wound on top of which the frightening chaos, springs from. I don't know if my grammar was good there, but I think you know what I mean. Check out my class. If this sounds good to you, go to michaellennox.com and check it out. And if you can't afford a class from me, all my process classes are available with scholarship. All you got to do is scroll down to where it says, and lots of people don't scroll down. Okay, I have a question today, and I hate when this happens, but every once in a while, I'll take the question language from email or social media, put it into my question, document, and save it. And this one, I forgot the name. I forgot to save the name, so I don't know where this came from, and I don't know whether, I don't know if this is social media or email. So this is an avid listener, as you will momentarily hear, so I'm sure she's listening, and she knows who she is. All right. Hi, Michael and Zoe. I've been a fan of your podcast and especially enjoyed the weekly astrology lessons vis-a-vis listeners' questions. Here's one that I'm not sure have been previously discussed, and neither do I, honey, because I don't remember anything. That's all right. One of the essence of teaching is repetition, so I'm not sad about that. All right, here we go. With eclipse season approaching, so I guess she wrote this before eclipse season, I wondered whether you could share your knowledge and experience related to how, and then in parentheses, if, people who have a lunar eclipse at the time and place of birth are affected. Then, as I've grown into myself, I've leveled up my ritual every new and full moon. No doubt. But the fact is, for me, a full moon, I love this because this is true of me as well. A full moon is so much more exciting energetically than the new moon. I would add that full moons make me sick and new moons never do. And when I say sick, I mean moon sick. It's not ill. It's an overwhelming energy that sometimes is pleasurable and sometimes isn't. So, anything happening at the birth moment that is anomalous, like a planet being backward, Mercury retrograde in the chart, or any of the personal planets retrograde in a chart, that person will naturally feel more comfortable in those processes than the rest of us who have, say, Mercury direct in our charts. Same thing here, only it has an added sort of color. So such a person would naturally be more comfortable in the sort of wild amplification of energy that every eclipse brings. But there's more. Wait, don't buy yet. You also get steak knives. Because if you're born under an eclipse, life can move dramatically when you move through an eclipse, right? Because it's connected to your first breath consciousness. And eclipses they are transformational. They are fated. They are big, right? So Mercury retrograde in a chart is just a posture of perception. So yes, you match it easily when Mercury's retrograde if you have that in your chart, but not the same with eclipses, because what it means is a fated big movement in your life is likely to happen during eclipses. For instance, eclipse babies tend to be, married in an eclipse, divorced in an eclipse. I think I said this out loud a few weeks ago, talking about this, that Amelia Earhart was born under an eclipse, and like 60% of her flights were in eclipse seasons, including her first and her last. That to me is the fabulously spooky version of this.
That's beautiful.
Right. So she's absolutely accurate in her assessment. And then what excited me about both her full moon, responsiveness as well as the ritual consciousness, I think eclipses, I never really thought about this until now, a person born under an eclipse might be able to cultivate a relationship with the moon that is also different than the average bear. I don't know this as an experience that I've seen, but it makes intuitive sense to me. I can tell you that my north node of Dharma and destiny is in Cancer, and if I didn't link my life up to the moon 20 years ago, and where it's taken me now, because I live inside of astrology unfolding, and that's because of the moon in a way. So what an eclipse baby might have is an important consciousness of ritual and attentiveness to the moon, because the sun and the moon were doing something just like that when you took your first breath. So it's an interesting week in this regard, Zoe. I keep wanting to say things like it's a gentle week, it's a quiet week, not much will, happen, but that's not really possible. But we do start out with a couple of quieter days, Monday and Tuesday, than, certainly the week before, or, popping out of the canon of the eclipse. So just know that. But here's my conundrum, Zoe. There's not anything happening in the planets to talk about on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So that's part of why I'm like, ooh, it'll be quieter. We won't be hit with anything new or frustrating, except that Tuesday is the first quarter moon. Now, I talk about the quarter moons in, the things I put out there daily, because they're a significant moment of the lunar cycle. But in an eclipse, they're going to be that plus, right? Because amplification. So when the sun and the moon come together, there's a commonality, there's a mutuality. They're both pulling into the ground. So we, plant seeds when the fertility is strong, because you got sun and moon together. Oh, you're sort of powering up gravity to our sort of, vroom, vroom. 7 days later, now the sun and the moon, they're at odds with each other. So conscious awareness is now bumping into unconscious impulses in a way that is not clear, right? So that means hitting walls of unconscious material, creating some kind of block, obstacle, frustration, or thing you have to contend with. This could be as simple as mood. You could be moody on the first quarter moon, but you could also be sort of shadowy triggered because of stuff that's happening on Wednesday. Because of the times, I have incorporated Black Moon Lilith transits, or rather, I should say, transiting planets hitting Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius, when in the past I haven't. I haven't simply because the people who do shadow work with me know where Black Moon Lilith is anytime I'm doing a shadow class, and so it's not like I'm
Right.
not talking about that. Sometimes on social media, people will be like, you should talk about blah, blah, blah. And I have to say, well, I do, but you have to come to where I'm talking about that. Like, I don't take
Yeah.
requests. So
Like, check in the week it happens.
Yeah, right, exactly. There's plenty of places you can find out what I'm saying that won't cost you anything. But I'm incorporating transits to Black Moon Lilith because of the times that all of us need to be constantly addressing our shadow reactivity to things because of what I said at the top of the show, that our angry and dysregulating reactions to life on life's terms this year will be touching into every single wound of fear and instability that you have not yet healed. That is just the way it works. So the outside world heats up, and so will your inside world, because you will not be able to carry the outside world any bigger than the inner space you have to fit it in. So that means face the mirror, take responsibility, look at your side of the street first on every conflict that you move through. And just know that on Wednesday, the sun is squaring Black Moon Lilith, which means our conscious awareness is sort of shining sideways into our shadow. That's like the cop shining the flashlight into the car where you're parked trying to do a little
Frightening.
car stuff.
That's so jarring.
Right. And Venus is semi-squaring Pluto also on Wednesday, and that's a Persephone-Hades shadow interaction. This is not when the queen of the underworld and the underworld leader are in Congress. This is when Persephone is pushing back and saying, you know what? Too much. Back off. Too much change, except that we don't get to back off. So that makes Wednesday an important day to look into the mirror and say, how responsible are you being for every feeling that you're having? Don't get overwhelmed by thinking about your feelings over the next month. I'm talking about the day you look into the mirror. Living one day at a time, as tropey as that sounds, is one of the biggest antidotes to looking at the horizon with fear. Wednesday is the day that Mercury turns around and goes retrograde. So in the midst of all of the big energies that we're plodding through, the fact that Mercury is in a sign he's debilitated in is not exactly helpful. I keep trying to spin it that way. Like I've been spinning it as we have to move by feel. And while Mercury is like drowning in Pisces, Venus is in Pisces. She knows how to move by feel. And Mercury and Venus do have a powerful relationship within this retrograde cycle. But make no mistake about it, we don't do well with perception and communication when Mercury is in this sign. And so a retrograde in this sign is going to be all the more destabilizing, discombobulating. All of the Mercury retrograde challenges will be stronger. I'm hoping that the Pisces sign will keep technology from being quite as overwhelmed as some Mercury retrogrades when they are in air signs, but I don't know if that's true. I'm hoping. Now, the value of this is connection to the unconscious. Like one of the themes is rising up today is the idea that unconscious wounds that you're still holding on to will, aggravate your reaction to the current moments. So while Mercury is lost in this sign, he's still Mercury. Make no doubt. Like, he's not gagged and he's not being waterboarded. He's just, being driven by a different archetype that doesn't know clarity. But it's still our perception capacity. And so what I want you to think about while Mercury is backward moving, I don't give a shit if your day-to-day life is bumpy or your car didn't work because, what I care about is that you use the 3 weeks or so, 2.5 weeks that starts on Wednesday to dive very deeply into however you access your unconscious spaces with a practice. So think of this as just a binary. It's like if your assignment is you have these 2 options only, what are you going to choose? In my favorite way of saying it, on a Tuesday. So for every day that you choose to look up at the outside world and try to make logical sense or structural inferences to what's happening outside, you're going to be confused, cloudy, and muddled. But if you use moments to turn within, you're going to go all the way down to the bottom of your capacity to visit the nether spaces in your own personal underworld.
So it's a draining week. It's draining on your energy.
Well, it's certainly going, it's an apt word for what this week might feel like, especially on Wednesday. But what I'm describing is that there's value in tapping within that is not typically available for us. And there's healing transits in the retrograde cycle, right? It's not one of those horrible ones where the geometry is all hard geometry or unfortunate planets for Mercury to bumping into. This one has a trine to Jupiter, a conjunction to the North Node. Right there means the mind is getting sort of primed for better manifestation consciousness, right? It's like a lesson between Mercury and Jupiter, where the lesson might be, hey, if you stay tethered to the deepest unconscious places with your mind, and remember that that's where you create from, says Jupiter in Cancer, then the whole cycle is like training the mind to connect to lower places in your consciousness that have more creative power because they're deeper in the soil. Semi-squares to Pluto and Chiron also mean power struggles and wounds, right? So it's got a little bit for everybody. And it begins on Wednesday. I hope you're paying attention in the retrograde shadow that started 2.5 weeks ago, because what came up back then, you will likely be revisiting in the 2.5 weeks that start this Wednesday. There are 2 things that I love about the week and the month and the cycle. One of them is when Mercury does go direct, it's on the equinox. And it's an exact conjunction with the North Node of the moon, the future, the dharma, the purpose energy. So to me, that's the gift that's built into a Mercury retrograde cycle where I get to say things like this, that yes, bumpy maybe, keep your sights on the inner landscape, and it's one of the most valuable Mercury retrograde cycles that any of us have ever lived through, subject to my hyperbole. Okay. Talk about a little bit of drowning and drained. Friday is so trafficked up in Pisces water energy. Some people are going to move through the latter part of the week and have some difficulty either with deep emotions and, feelings that just seem, to have a bottomless pit. confusion and cloudiness in that, Piscean, I can't quite see where I'm going. And do not opt to stay home just because it's foggy out. I don't mean this literally. I mean, the flooding on Friday into the weekend is also very, very valuable, but extremely wet. So, one of the yummy things about this Mercury retrograde cycle, aside from the one I just mentioned about the equinox, happens today. See, Mercury just turns around on Wednesday, and by early Friday, Venus and Mercury backwards are meeting up by conjunction. What this means is that the first day that Mercury starts his trek into the underworld, because this is a Pisces Mercury direct, he's going straight down into the lowest depths of us. But first, he meets up with Venus, who knows how to move through Pisces. She's about to leave soon enough, but she gets together with her pal, the talker, and says, here's how you move by feel. Here's how to not rely on your thinking, but to rely more on your feelings and not get overwhelmed. Now, that's my anthropomorphication of it. What it does mean is on Friday, there's a deep alignment between things that are important to us in a feeling way, in a relational way, perhaps financially, because Venus rules that. And then Mercury there means that we get perception about stuff that's in the heart that might be too floaty to be exact with. Like people who are in relationship dynamics who can't quite decide how they are feeling because the planet of love is in the sign where everybody loves everybody and love is love is love is love is love is love, and it doesn't matter what the structures of people are. So again, the valuable thing of downloading some stuff is there, but also just, I'm not sure how to guide you for Friday, because let me just continue with the astrology and you'll know why. The sun, one of the significant things that happens within the lunar cycle of eclipse season is the moment when the sun connects exactly with whatever node of the moon that is leading the eclipse. So it's the sun's relationship to either the south or the north node that makes an eclipse season either a forward-facing one or a clean-up behind-you one. Many people are confused because they think if the moon is at the south node in a full moon while the sun's hanging at the north, that's a south node moment. It's not. The sun is our conscious awareness. And in an eclipse season where the sun is at the north node, as it is in this one, then our conscious awareness is looking forward towards the future. What's the Dharma? What do I need to be shot out of the cannon with? What do I have to, process to allow big change to occur? The day that the sun connects to the north node becomes one of those awareness moments that you want to be paying attention, because we will all have some kind of a sense on Friday that, if I say words that relate to just the sun and the north node, it would be the conscious awareness in you is absolutely lighting up where the Yellow Brick Road wants to go next. But because it's Pisces, it's from below the surface of the water. And if you've ever heard sound from down below water, you can't really hear it, but you can feel it. Chiron is sesquisquaring the north node that day. So that adds a kind of scratch and itch, not only of your wounded spaces, but also of the mastery that Chiron's trying to teach you. Right? Chiron's not just about healing the childhood wound. He's only doing that so that you can become more masterful with the alchemy that's available to you as a human being in a body. So a sesquisquare is not a growing or destroying energy. It's just an itchy frustration, and that gives awareness to something that needs your attention. Like an itch tells you, oh, if I scratch just there, this agitation will go away. So over in this corner that I've just described, I think it's pretty clear that Friday is overwhelming in a emotional and a clarity kind of way. And I keep talking about the value of like leaning in instead of looking out, except, oh, fuck. Mars is squaring Uranus that day. So anytime the planet of action and anger and reactivity and movement is in the hard geometry of fight, with the planet that brings things very suddenly and out of nowhere, that is also peaking on Friday. So the traffic is pretty enormous and very contradictory. Now, I'll say this, because Mars still has not moved into Pisces, right? The gathering parade is diminishing now, right? So they're not close. And Mercury and Venus are up ahead doing the Pisces dive. But our body, our anger, our reactivity, our goals, all the blah, 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 is in Aquarius. Aquarius has a shadow of righteousness. A square is always going to bring out the shadow of both planets involved. So the shadow of Uranus would be the thing that happens suddenly feels problematic instead of the potential for excitement. And make no mistake about it, these squares are exciting. So like not everybody's going to feel the roughness I'm going to describe. Some of you might get a very exciting new piece of information during this energy. You guys don't need my help. So I'm not being like negative, like only bad things are going to happen. I'm just going to focus on the resistance to assist and trust that if you have an exciting emergence over the weekend, yay. So Mars in a square with Uranus is an unstable and disruptive short burst of energy. But it's Mars, so it's going to reflect things you can see, right? Pisces energy says, can't see nothing. And then in the midst of like us snorkeling in the deep end or in the lagoon of our delightful unconscious, up above us, there will be a flash of lightning that also needs our intention. I meant attention, but I'll take the Freudian slip. We need to be both on Friday, attentive to our inner world, down there ready to receive all of the incredible information that we get to access every day if we're open, while at the same time having to deal with an outside world chaos that is not going away anytime soon. As I answered the question about eclipses, Donald Trump's born under an eclipse.
Oh my God.
This eclipse season is rocking his world, and all you have to do is look at the news and you can see there's like an enormous deflation going on for both him and MAGA, and there might be some juicy stuff at the end of this week from the square, and then the Pisces unconsciousness is sort of what lets the sudden information like burst out, right?
The last thing I need is for that guy to be supercharged by anything.
Well, I mean, his poor body is ready to take an electrical shock and end.
Yeah.
So, listen, I do not lie about this. I have Schadenfreude. I enjoy my Schadenfreude because I don't lead with it. It's not like a public-facing quality in me. It's quiet, and it allows me to be like, damn, I like that downfall. I like that reckoning. One last thing to say, and then we'll close out our episode for the week, is over the weekend, the Leo moon is going to inconjunct the sun, the fork in the road energy that is we call it the great eliminator angle because it always reflects a slight change of tracks But the essence is we're leaving something behind. Now, doesn't mean we're also going towards something new, right? But the essence of the geometry is to focus on I'm leaving something behind, just like the sun and the moon allows for us to leave behind consciousness that's ready to be released. This is the geometry that opens the cellar door. It happens 2 days before every full moon, and again 2 days after every full moon, where the cellar door to the basement is shut. So that means the unconscious is starting to rumble this weekend with like big full moon eclipse energy that's happening early next week. So you can expect that to also put a little like rumble in your weekend. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week, we have Melanie calling in from Georgia. Hey, Melanie, what you dreaming?
Hi, okay. Well, this dream happened the night of Sunday, February 1st, 2026, during the Leo full moon.
Ooh, love
And
that.
it took my breath away when I realized that fact when I woke up Monday morning, and you'll understand why. Because it
Okay.
began with a large male lion standing
Oh my goodness. Okay, go ahead.
standing
Let's go
face to face with a larger male tiger. It was as if they were in some sort of void, like no observable natural surroundings.
Right.
I realized they were communicating and negotiating something without speaking, just through their eye gaze.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
The dream then switched to my somehow being given charge of a baby tiger to take care of and keep, which I agreed to for its sake because there were no better options, but against my will because I don't want to try to domesticate a wild thing. And I felt this immense sense of worry that it was dangerous, even though it was soft and cuddly and adorable as a baby. And then this flashes to the future when I have a large metal fence side yard for this now huge adult tiger, which I constantly have to manage and keep visitors and family members safe from. Inevitably, my mother comes to visit and somehow the tiger escapes. And my mother...
Ah! Oh my. Oh, I love this dream. And tiger escapes.
So my mother and my dogs and my cats are hanging out in the tiger's yard as I frantically try to get them back into the house and go find the tiger to get it back before anyone in the community is eaten. And then I woke up at this point and I was just completely stressed and exhausted. So I'm also really interested in that negotiation between the lion and the tiger at the beginning. So
Absolutely. It's this is a juicy dream. In fact, one of the things that, that can happen in the dream world is sometimes the most powerful dreams are the ones that are very simple, where the storyline sort of dominates because it's not taking you into like crazy, oh, didn't expect that, and suddenly we're at a carnival, and then we're up to, right? This is a narrative dream that's pretty clear. Did I hear correctly that the male tiger was larger than the male lion?
Yes.
Now, that's very interesting. All right. I think I want to ask you just a question about like who you are
Okay.
vis-a-vis your family, especially mom, with upsetting the apple cart of being, big and, having a roar that might be more energy than your family might have wanted to contain.
Yes.
Were you that at all?
Yes. I think I've always been, I'm the oldest daughter.
Okay.
I have 2 younger sisters, and I think I was always very parentified as the oldest daughter, particularly taking care of my mother.
Okay, got it. Keep going. Say a little more if you have more coming out of
Sure.
your mouth.
Well, I think that I've always, at least since adulthood, been more of a black sheep. Well, that's not true. Even in childhood, I think I was always a little bit much, except when that served them well.
Right, when it served
Yes.
your family or your mother corralling that
Yes.
large energy into purpose and her need for you to like be a co-parent.
Yes.
I love the parentified piece because that makes the whole dream like snap into place for me.
Okay.
So we obviously know that, from the last scene of the dream, right, that this is like I'm not going to call it a mother issue dream, though it is, it is influenced by that. I think it's just about a big change in you that, let's see if we can figure out what that is by going through the dream in this way. First and foremost, it's an animal medicine dream, and animal medicines and totems reflect our ferocity and our passions, and they're large archetypes, so they represent large qualities in us that have a mystical bent. If you have a mystical bent, right, and I have a mystical bent, so you're sitting in front of me, and here we go. One of the things that strikes me the most about these two medicines communicating, right? It's your dreams, so we know they're both either in you or available for you, or something like a trade-off of who gets to be in charge now, as opposed to who had to lead based on the parentified identity. Here's where I get that. Lions are pack animals. Or I don't think they call them packs, but they live in groups. They are, matriarchal. The idea that the male lion is king is visually sexy and behaviorally occasionally sort of met. If a lion's looking to mate and he comes along, you might think, ooh, he's in charge, but it's a matriarchal lion. That's just because the men were the gazers on lions and wolves. So it's like, alpha male, which is also not how wolves operate. So that's interesting that lions are matriarchal. They connect to packs living together, and tigers are solitary. Tigers are almost always alone. Lions, Leo, full moon. Lions are out in the Serengeti. They are daytime creatures. Tigers are nocturnal. Daytime bright light of the savannah is very different than the shadow implications of the jungle, where tigers dwell. If we look at the Leo energy of the medicine, I am declaring that was what carried you through being parentified and your early adult years, where you're still going to be exactly who you were formed to be until you bump into the walls of, well, this isn't working, and then you become like more authentically you in your 20s and, later if you do the kind of self-introspection work. So I think the negotiation is the tiger. Tiger's larger.
Yes.
So we're going to name that as the top in this question, and the lion is the bottom. And the tiger is saying it's our time now. We want to pull in our power that is internal. It's for us. It's shadow-oriented. It operates stealthily and moves when it wants and can and will. That's very intimate, personal, powerful. That has nothing to do with throwing all of that life force into the parentified unit. And the lion was your capacity to do that and still maintain a strength of identity and a sense of like, this is who I am.
Wow.
So that when we get to the attitude that you have about the tiger that you've been given, so that's also why we know the tiger medicine is what's taking over, because your kitten, tiger kitten, is your tiger. It's brand new, just got born. And you got charged with it in the Leo full moon. What do you want to keep in a full moon of Leo? Cat power.
Okay.
What do you want to let go of? Leo version, and trade it out for tiger version.
That's fascinating.
There's the wound of, if I really step into my authentic self, there's a cost. If I get too big, I have to protect my family from my bigness, which might also have been like a message or a wound. You stay small because your bigness is harmful, which is bullshit, but we get trained that. So you have this immense sense of danger. The danger is false. The danger is what the dream is asking you to like look at, right? The negotiation is fascinating to you. I get that because that's your power speaking to your power, and you recognize that. So I love that. But the important piece of the dream is this, oh, I can't. It's too much burden on others. So then when we get to the future, I'm going to call that now. Adult life now. Even though the baby tiger was, at the full moon, we're going to pretend that it's, fully grown now because that's, consciousness. So mother coming to visit is like, oh, here's the lineage. This is specifically about my mother's, and now I know, parentification, all the other stuff. And your dogs and cats, they are your current reflection of unconditional love. Mom is conditional love. Don't let anybody tell you that mothers love unconditionally. They do not. What they have is a chemical connection that is bigger than any logical notion. But that connection is not a guarantee of unconditional love. It's only a guarantee of connection, right?
Yeah.
Even if your mom is loving and wonderful, right? That bond isn't about love as much as it's about the bond. And so this future that I'm calling now has not only no access to like the mother love that lives in you, but also the cat and dog love. You're like, I'm so scared. I'm going to protect the vulnerable, loving parts of me by getting rid of them. Putting them away from where the action is. The action is where your bigness meets the world and sometimes says, no, not that, not for Melanie. And you get to say, sorry, tiger. I will jump out from the jungle path and eat you when you're not looking, because I'm paying attention to everything that's below and in the, the lugubrious jungle places of the shadow. It's beautiful. In this way, tiger medicine is just way richer than lion medicine because of how we're holding it.
That's so beautiful. I love that. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm going to have to think about this for days.
Yay! For you, the guest, and maybe even the listeners, your best time of this experience should be after. Right?
That's
Where
wonderful.
You get to go, ooh, I just got some information. I wonder what of it suits and fits and feels good.
That's great. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. The fact that it happened in a full moon is chef's kiss. Thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.